The Gaza Strip is quiet, for now. The bombs have stopped falling. The streets once choked with smoke and rubble are eerily still. A ceasefire, brokered in the waning hours of the Trump administration, has brought a tentative peace. But the silence is heavy, pregnant with the grief of lives lost and the uncertainty of what tomorrow may bring. This isn't a victory, not for anyone. It's a fragile truce, purchased with the blood of innocents. The ceasefire agreement, reached just days before President Biden's inauguration, promises a prisoner exchange and a cessation of hostilities. On the surface, it mirrors proposals put forth by the Biden camp during the campaign. Yet the timing is impossible to ignore. It feels like a final, pointed act from a departing president. The human cost of this conflict is staggering. Entire families wiped out, their homes reduced to dust, hospitals overwhelmed, schools turned into shelters. This ceasefire might stop the bombs, but it can't erase the trauma. It can't rebuild what's been shattered. For the people of Gaza, the question isn't whether this peace will hold, but how long it will be until the next bomb falls. Donald Trump, the man who thrives on chaos, is now casting himself as a peacemaker. He claims credit for the Gaza ceasefire, touting his administration's role in pressuring Israel to accept the deal. His supporters amplify these claims, painting him as the tough-talking negotiator who succeeded where others failed. Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, reportedly played a key role in the final hours, shuttling between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. Israeli media credit Witkoff's involvement as crucial in securing the ceasefire. This narrative, whether entirely accurate or strategically crafted, plays perfectly into Trump's desire to leave office on a high note. The irony is that Trump's entire presidency has been marked by an unabashed pro-Israel stance. He moved the United States Embassy to Jerusalem, recognized Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights, and remained silent as settlements expanded in the West Bank. His administration cut off aid to Palestinian refugees and shuttered the Palestinian diplomatic mission in Washington. For Trump, it's not about genuine peacemaking. It's about optics, about controlling the narrative. He understands the power of image, the importance of being seen as the deal-maker who brought an end to the bloodshed. As the bombs fell on Gaza, Joe Biden remained conspicuously silent. His initial pronouncements on the conflict were tepid, expressing concern but stopping short of condemning Israel's actions. For many Arab Americans, Biden's silence was deafening. They saw it as a continuation of the status quo, a reaffirmation that American presidents, regardless of party, will always side with Israel. The memory of Biden's unwavering support for Israel during his time as vice president loomed large. The perception is that Biden is beholden to the pro-Israel lobby, unwilling to risk alienating a powerful ally. Biden's eventual call for a ceasefire, when it did come, felt hollow, too little, too late. The trust, already fragile, had been further eroded. The 2024 election exposed a deep rift within the Arab American community. For decades, they had been a reliable voting bloc for the Democratic Party, drawn to the party's stance on social justice and economic equality. But the unquestioning support for Israel left many feeling disillusioned and betrayed. This disillusionment manifested in a shift in voting patterns. In key swing states like Michigan, support for the Democratic candidate plummeted. Many either stayed home, voted third party, or cast their lot with Donald Trump. This shift wasn't necessarily an endorsement of Trump's policies. It was a protest vote, a rejection of the status quo. The Democratic Party needs to demonstrate a genuine commitment to peace, one that prioritizes human rights and international law over political expediency. Blindly supporting Israel at the expense of Palestinian lives is no longer a viable option. The ink on the ceasefire agreement was barely dry before the violations began. Sporadic rocket fire from Gaza, followed by retaliatory strikes from Israel, served as a stark reminder of the fragility of this truce. For Palestinians, it was a painful echo of past ceasefires, agreements that offered a glimmer of hope, only to be shattered by renewed violence. The skepticism runs deep, and for good reason. Israel has a long history of violating ceasefire agreements, using them as an opportunity to regroup and rearm. The 2014 war, which ended with a ceasefire that Israel repeatedly violated, is a case in point. Adding to the distrust is the issue of Israeli settlements. Despite international condemnation, Israel continues to build on occupied Palestinian land. For any ceasefire to hold, these issues need to be addressed. Settlement expansion needs to stop. The international community needs to present a united front, prioritizing Palestinian self-determination and human rights. The ceasefire in Gaza offers a sliver of hope, a chance to breathe, to rebuild, to grieve. But it's a fragile peace, built on a foundation of mistrust and broken promises. The root causes of the conflict, the occupation, the settlements, the denial of Palestinian rights, fester, waiting for the next spark. For Arab Americans, the ceasefire is a time of reflection and renewed activism. They understand that their voices matter, that their votes have power. They are organizing, mobilizing, and demanding better from their elected officials. The road ahead is long and uncertain, but the Arab American community will continue to be a powerful force for change. They will continue to speak truth to power, to challenge the status quo, and to fight for a future where peace is not just a ceasefire, but a reality.